If you haven't already seen part 1 or 2, Grand Admiral Zaarin attempted a coup against Palpatine, but this failed, and then he decided to generally mess around with the Empire to try to wear down them against his technological advantage. With the loss of the Empire's ability to manufacture TIE Avengers, thanks to Zaarin destroying the Saynar Fleet Systems factory located in the Omar system. Zaarin then focused his efforts on his research platforms to steal the prototypes and technology of TIE Defenders. Fearing that the Rebel Alliance could gain a reprieve, which in turn Zaarin could take advantage of, loyalist Imperial forces sent 3 TIE Defenders to stop Zaarin's raiders from stealing the technologies. When the TIE Defenders arrived, cargo ferries were in the process of docking with containers that likely contained TIE Defender prototypes. One escaped while the Defenders were engaging TIE bombers, while also disabling multiple shuttles carrying officers and technicians that were needed to be interrogated. By the time the bombers were destroyed, one of the ferries had escaped, but the other 3 were destroyed before they could make it off with the containers. Soon reinforcements arrived with an escort carrier, and arrived with a contingency of TIE fighters that were heavily modified to carry shields and warhead launchers. However, the fighters and the carrier were all destroyed, and the platform was disabled and captured assault transports. When the facility was captured, the Empire knew that Zaarin wasn't going to give them any reprieve, as assault transports escorted by TIE Defenders, and soon a small rebel starfighter force arrived. The Adarga was badly damaged and had to withdraw, and with the Star Destroyer neutralized, the strike force turned its attention to the research platform. The only TIE Defender the Empire had managed to muster destroyed the transports and disabled the rogue TIE Defenders, while escort shuttles arrived as reinforcements. Tugs were dispatched to pick up the Defenders, and not long afterwards, 2 Corellian corvettes arrived and attempted to deploy probe keyholes to monitor the area, and they were both destroyed before they could finish deploying probes. With the Adarga no longer in use, Imperial Command decided to evacuate the base. They transferred the 2 remaining prototypes onto a bulk freighter, and the remaining personnel, one of whom was the chief scientist of the project, onto a Lambda-class shuttle. When the freighter arrived with 2 escort shuttles, the rogue assault gunboats arrived to engage the remaining defenses. Shortly afterwards, dogfighting ensued, and Grand Admiral Zaarin arrived in his flagship, being the Star Destroyer Glory. The Glory launched stormtrooper transports, TIE Defenders, TIE Avengers, modified TIE bombers, and tugs. Despite his force outnumbering the Imperial Loyalist forces, the station was successfully evacuated, and both the freighter and shuttle would jump to hyperspace, leaving only the facility left to destroy. The Empire would also be ambushed by pirates, despite defeating the Rebel Alliance during the Second Battle of Parmel. When the Imperial corvettes jumped out of hyperspace, they found themselves in an ion minefield that had been laid by Renki pirates, and they were unable to escape their own, and they were outnumbered by multiple R-41 Star Chasers and a strike-class medium cruiser. They called for reinforcements, but feared that they may not arrive in time, and so they sent the TIE Defender that was still combat-worthy off to fight the pirates. By the time the Defender was launched, the shuttle was already boarded, and the chief scientist, along with the data, was stolen, and the transport jumped to hyperspace. The Defender, meanwhile, destroyed all of the other transports, and fought off the R-41 Star Chasers, while the corvettes soon became disabled with no means of moving towards their meeting with Thrawn. Assault gunboats soon arrived, and the pirate threat was neutralized, sparing the threat of proton torpedoes of being captured for the moment. 3 cargo ferries were brought in to repair the corvettes and transfer the TIE Defenders to each one, with the space combat-worthy one docking. However, 2 of them arrived 24 clicks away, and a Rebel starfighter strike force consisting of 2 A-Wings, 2 B-Wings, and 4 X-Wings had just arrived, at a relatively long distance of about 20 clicks, but they were still a danger to the ships. The TIE Defender was once again deployed to fight off the Rebels. However, while the lone Defender helped gunboat escorts deal with the Rebel raid force, another pirate group of Y-Wings, T-Wings, and the YT-1300 transport arrived very close to the corvettes and disabled them so that they could board and capture one of the corvettes. By the time the Empire had arrived, they were too late, as the party escaped to hyperspace with the TIE Defender prototype. To make matters worse for them, Zaarin sent in his own TIE Defenders to the battle. Although effective against the gunboats, They were also defeated by the lone TIE Defender, and soon the cargo ferries reached the stranded ships and were about to pick up the other prototype to repair the 2 corvettes when the light Mon Calamari cruiser belonging to the pirates arrived to launch Z-95 headhunters. They were driven off again by Imperial fighters, and the combat-worthy single Defender docked, and both ships reached Thrawn eventually and escaped Zaarin. Although the TIE Defender technology and prototypes reached Thrawn safely, the loss of the main research facility and potential manufacturing plants meant that the TIE Defender would see little action afterwards in the Empire service. Combined with the danger that there were 2 renegade pirate factions now possessing the TIE Defenders, meant that TIE Defenders might be manufactured outside of the Empire's control. Knowing the serious consequences of such sophisticated technologies being in enemy hands, a crash program was needed to counter this problem as soon as possible. Thrawn would also soon collaborate with Cygnus Spaceworks to develop a new starfighter. And that is the end of Part 3. Do you think Zaarin will be able to pull off a big win since the Empire had to deal with the Rebel Alliance and pirates? Or will Thrawn's new starfighter turn the tide against Zaarin? Write in the comments and thank you for watching.